Hi, Lulu. Welcome to Heart with Saima. I'll let you give an introduction about yourself. Go ahead.
Hi, Saima. Thank you for inviting me to talk with you today. My name is Lulu Seikaly. I am first generation American born, running for United States Congress here in Collin County, hoping to be one of the youngest in the Texas delegation, the first Lebanese American Congresswoman from Texas, and hoping to turn Collin County blue in the process. So thank you so much for inviting me to talk with you about my journey.
Thank you for coming. Absolutely. We definitely want empowered women, talk about strong women, their strengths, their dreams, their passions. So tell us your background and how you've evolved and reached this journey. I mean, you went through this journey and where you are today.
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate because both of my parents are very strong people, and without them and without their encouragement and letting me take risks and be myself, I definitely wouldn't be where I am today. I grew up in North Texas. Actually went to SMU for undergraduate on scholarship, studied political science and French there. Then I was a teacher for a year before I became a field organizer. I worked on a campaign statewide here in Texas before going to Houston to law school. So in all of these paths up until the law school point specifically, I was given kind of the freedom to be myself, to speak up when I felt like I needed it was appropriate to speak up, and my parents encouraged me to do that. They always encouraged me to question and never take just no for an answer if I didn't feel something wasn't right. So I went to law school, always kind of knowing I wanted to be a lawyer so I could advocate for other people. I knew that I had a pretty strong voice and that other people may not be able to have such a strong voice. So went the law school route, ended up becoming a labor and employment attorney where I represented small businesses mainly, and as well as cities. So I would help small businesses navigate kind of the intricacies of the labor and employment world to make sure they weren't violating a law on accident or doing anything like that. And I was a professor at a law school. I was practicing law as well, an adjunct professor where I taught trial advocacy, which is all about how to be an advocate for your client in the courtroom, how to convince a jury and talk to a jury when you are trying to fight for clients' rights. So I entered this race last fall, and it's been quite the whirlwind. This will be the first time, hopefully I get elected, the first time a woman has ever represented us here. I think that is so important in politics. I know we're trying to close that gap to make sure that more women are able to step up and speak up and get elected and be a voice, because right now, at least in the United States Congress, only 24% out of the 435 representatives are women. So we absolutely need to close that gap. We need to get more diverse representation, especially on the gender side.
Absolutely, and diversity is very important. You were talking about strong parents who played such a big role in you becoming who you are, this independent woman, and absolutely an empowered woman who knew what her dreams were, and you went after your dreams. That is so powerful, and I think that is such a big message for all of us parents to raise children, to raise daughters, and give them a voice and give them that room to be able to evolve and grow. I myself have similar parents who were my dad would be like, okay, so I would be like, okay, I want to jump, and my dad would say, okay, how high? It's such an empowered feeling to have such a strong parents. So what made you go to law school, go for a law degree?
Well, it's funny because my dad is a physician and my mom is a nurse. So I think they were secretly hoping I was going to be a doctor or a nurse or go down some sort of the medical field. To me, I always knew, at an early age, my parents joke that I was born talking, that was like the thing I did. Like talking I was never scared of talking in front of people, whether it was a crowd of 5 or a crowd of 5,000. So I always knew that being able to be a voice for someone else, whether it was on the playground if someone was getting bullied, or in college, I was really involved with student government in college, stood up to some things in college I didn't believe was right, and that. So to me, I knew that the way to be able to achieve that route and achieve that goal of mine of helping people is to go to law school. I mean, although I was, a paid lawyer and things like that, I mean, even in my, when the politics have kind of gone sideways, when, I don't know how much politics we want to talk here. So, but when there were things happening over the past several years, with the Muslim ban and things like that, I definitely was one of those lawyers at the airport trying to help. I went on a Sunday with my laptop. I'm not an immigration attorney, but I do speak a little Arabic and I understand Arabic. And I showed up, I said, I have a law degree and a laptop. What can I do? And so to me, it was always a calling to be of service and to always be able to advocate for people. And to me, I always knew that was my calling, which, I'm so happy to be in the path I am right now, hoping to advocate for us here in Collin County in Washington, D.C., making sure that, our voices are being heard here. So that way we can make some really good positive change.
How did you end up in politics?
So before I went to law school, I worked as a field organizer here in North Texas for a campaign. The gentleman's name is Bill White. He ran for governor 10 years ago. He was the mayor of Houston. So during that time, I met a lot of amazing women, a lot of women who are Texans, who moved to Washington, D.C., to help Obama's administration, to do good in DC as well. And a lot of them came back to Texas during that short period of time to help us with the campaign. So over the past, I don't know how long, 10 years, I guess, I've kept in touch with these amazingly strong women. And this was something that, I had definitely talked to them about. After 2016 was kind of the first wake-up call for me. And then in 2018, when we saw just the diversity and the young women stepping up, getting elected to office, I said, I need to do this. I have a voice. I know I can be a great voice. This is my home. I look a lot like this district. I know a lot of people in this district. The way that we're governing right now is not what this district wants and needs. So I was really inspired by 2018 and even more motivated by these women I met on the Bill White campaign to really step up and say, you know what? 34, it's not too young to step up and be a representative of a district. We have to have more diverse voices.
I think it's wonderful that at such a young age, you knew that this is what you want to pursue, and your passion was aligned with your dreams and desires and your journey, and that's, you're so fortunate. That everything was aligned for you, and you were able to move forward and pursue and go in the direction of your dreams.
Well, it's interesting too, because my dad, my parents, they fled civil war in Lebanon. They came here, so they didn't have an easy time as well. But with my dad as a physician and my mom as a nurse, they always said, you have to always give back. And they were giving back in their professions as well. So I think for us, and even my brother is the same way, he always is giving back. He's always volunteering his time. He's always helping people, although he's not a lawyer. He's doing those things because my family is so service oriented that it was just kind of a natural progression, I think, for me.
So if you do end up winning, is that something you dream about? You visualize it?
Sometimes it's funny you mentioned that. My best friend is a ceramic artist. He makes bowls and vases and things like that. And so sometimes I have dreams of walking into my office in Washington, D.C. for the first time, and the office being filled of flowers in his vases because they're so unique. Like, you would look at that and you'd say, oh, that's his piece of art. So sometimes I have dreams like that. I'm hoping that means something, but we have to kind of get past this primary portion first. So hopefully, I think once we get past this primary, I feel pretty confident that we can flip this district and really get some good representation.
And that's what life is. Life is a series of, trials and tribulations, and
Yep.
you go through them and you evolve, and the different doors open. Just a few minutes ago, you mentioned that you along your journey you have met all these wonderful, strong women who have helped you shape you into the person you are becoming. And I think this is just something that I want to kind of throw it out there for women, that as women, when we fix each other's crown, we open doors not just for others, but we open doors for ourselves as well, and we evolve, and we create that synergy, and we move forward together.
Mm-hmm. If you look back at history, I took anthropology classes in college. They're very fascinating to me. But the women, we always hear women are so nurturing, but, during the hunter-gatherer stages of, our world, our Earth, our planet Earth, the men were always out hunting, and the women stayed behind as the nurturers and the gatherers, and they had no other choice but to be support for each other. And I'm a big believer. I went to an all-girls school for high school, and I'm a big and that was a big part of my journey as well. But I'm a big believer in when women lift each other up, the possibilities are endless. We just have to continue lifting each other up and not tearing each other down. I saw in high school both worlds. I saw high school girls really being supportive, lifting each other up, really being encouraging. But then I saw the other side of it, which was the jealousy, the tearing down. And we have to get back to a place where we're constantly lifting each other up and helping each other, because without that, we're never going to achieve, and we're never going to succeed.
Absolutely. I think as empowered women, this is such an important message to put out there, that together we become just so powerful, and we can accomplish anything.
Exactly. Anything, right? It could be in, real estate, in the medical field, in politics, in, the entertainment world, whatever it is. I would not be where I am today without strong, powerful women, without my mother, without my aunts, without my teachers who educated me, without the women I met on the Bill White campaign who have been constantly encouraging me through this really difficult process of campaigning. Yeah. I have been so fortunate to be surrounded by really strong women, and I hope, and I'm hoping I'm doing that with some of my interns right now, is being kind of a mentor for them to be able to look up to say, look, Lulu isn't that much older than me, but she's inspiring me to go after my dreams. And I want to continue doing that for women because it's just so important.
Do you have a dream?
I do have a dream for world peace, which is actually a kind of a dream, but I do, at some point, everyone always says, okay, first Congress, then president. President is not my dream. As of June 5th, 2020, president is not my dream. I would like to do something more. I think being a United States Congresswoman is the perfect place for me because I can affect change that I see much more locally on the ground. Moving back and forth between Washington and Plano, where I currently live, being in the district, I can affect change much more rapidly and quickly. And to me, seeing the change is where I want to be. So as of now, there are things I think about a lot of the time, but right now my first goal is to get elected to United States Congress and be sworn in January.
Well, we have our fingers crossed. Tell me if, from the perspective of going out to Washington, kind of putting politics on the side, yet on a grassroots level, what do you really feel passionate about? What change do you feel that you're wanting to bring just from a humanitarian perspective?
I think we're seeing a lot of that change happening right now, just on, with the protests and demonstrations we're seeing right now surrounding the George Floyd situation. As a Lebanese American, I saw a lot of racism growing up after 9/11. So to me, I want to be part of this change where where we can all kind of, and it sounds so kitschy, but it's the truth, where we can all just live in harmony together, that there's no reason for unnecessary violence. There's no reason for hatred. I think over the past few years, this increased violence and increased hateful language and rhetoric has really massively increased. And I hope we can get back to a spot where it's not like that anymore. And in fact, it's even better. As a young person, there are lots of things I want to see change for the future, for my future family, for me and for my husband, for me and for my brother and his fiance as well. Things like, I hope one day it's not so expensive to live in this country. I hope one day, we don't have to be paying so much money for college. I hope one day health insurance is much more affordable, things like that. But at the basic level, I just want everyone to get along, really, and to me, that's, I think, the simplest way I can put it. And I'm hoping with this new generation of young people stepping up, we start moving that conversation much quicker, so that way we can really try and resolve it.
We are both immigrants. You're a Lebanese immigrant, I'm from Pakistan. And we have seen that one thing, which is what Nelson Mandela said, that hatred is not something we are born with. It is something that, that's put into us. Mm-hmm. How do you feel? How do you think? How do we eradicate this? Because it's something that's within us. We are not born with it.
Right. I see, especially now, I've been seeing lots of videos and things like that of young toddlers, who are 1 or 2 years old, just walking, of different races getting along. And exactly with that exact same Nelson Mandela quote is that it's not something innate to us. It's something we learn and that we see. And honestly, I think it comes from the top down, right? I think that with a better administration that's not leading the way like this, that I think this is how we begin to eradicate it. We start to have these conversations. Look, I on Monday was in Frisco marching with the demonstrators, and it was so eye-opening and inspiring to see the amount of young people marching. And to me, I said, oh my gosh, this is great. Also, can you guys vote? Also, please go vote in November, because I think that that's how we start changing the conversation, right? Is we have all these young people, and even on my campaign team, with we have interns, high school age to college age. With the high school, a lot of the high school age students can't even vote yet, but they're already participating. They're already being part of the conversation. And I think these young people are seeing all this hate in this country, that they don't want to live like this as adults. So I think really trying to, and I think me and you've had this conversation before, which is we really have to get the younger generation engaged. And luckily, I think that they're getting engaged, but I wish it was for different reasons.
Absolutely, and it's unfortunate that it's happening. But sometimes there's a cause which is needed, something which triggers things into action. It's unfortunate that an innocent person died, and then everything kind of went into motion, and people started becoming very actively involved in what was going on. And hopefully, this is that point that we were all waiting for, to see things start to change.
Exactly.
What message would you give to our young adults who are getting ready to vote, either for the first time or they will be voting?
I would say it's probably the same message my parents gave to me, which is speak up if something doesn't sound right or feel right. I think that the only way we move change is by questioning. And I'm not saying questioning for the sake of questioning. I think that's important to learning and to moving forward. Engage yourselves and educate yourselves. my parents were never politically active. That was something that I liked growing up, and I educated myself about politics. I read and I read and I read and I read and I read, and I surrounded myself with people who were able to help me through the process, to help explain things to me. I was a political science major in college, so to me that was something that always interested me. But even if you're not a political science major or don't want anything to do with political science, I think it's important to educate yourself. Read as much as you can. I would just soak up as much as you can to read. And I love reading so much. I'm not able to read as much now, but I still have a book on my nightstand that I'm reading, and because I want to continue educating myself, because that's the only way we change.
I think we all have all these stacks of books.
Stacks of books on it. I only have one. I'm thankful.
Okay. Any message for women from a women empowerment perspective?
I would say, and this was something I told myself at the very beginning of my run, is that if I'm going to win or lose, I'm going to win or lose as myself. And I think that women a lot of times try to be someone who they're not, someone else that they're trying to be someone that someone else has told them to be. And I think that that's wrong. I think that a woman should be comfortable in her own skin. I think that a woman should speak out when they feel like they need to speak out. That I was really fortunate to go to an all-girls school, because I was never afraid to speak out. And then even when I got to college, I was never afraid to speak up in a class, because I was already doing it in high school. So I think the other big message, going back to kind of what we talked about before, is keep lifting each other up. We need to continue supporting each other and not tearing each other down, because we all have to be in this together. This is a fight in general that we all have to fight together. And I think that that's going to be a big turning point for us once we start truly lifting each other up together.
You're going after your dreams. We can obviously hear the passion in your voice, your love for what you are pursuing. How difficult is this journey?
It's definitely been difficult. The women who mentored me onto this journey told me it was difficult. I knew it was going to be difficult, but it's a lot more difficult than I anticipated. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're in a pandemic right now. We can't do the things we normally would be doing during this time. But to me, nothing worthwhile ever comes easy. This is hopefully something I look back on in my life and I say, remember Lulu's first campaign when she had to campaign during a pandemic and during protests and riots in DC and downtown Dallas? I mean, to me, I'm hoping
go into what 2020 has brought us in these.
I mean, I had a birthday in April. Part of me just wishes it didn't count. Like 2020 has just been like a wash. I mean, there were a lot of good things that happened in the first quarter of 2020, I think. We won our primary. We were the underdog. We won our primary. We do have our runoff in July, so we feel pretty good about that, but we still need the support and the votes. I think voting is the other big thing, is, exercise your right to vote. Even if you're afraid to speak, you have that right to vote, and it's so precious. But it's definitely been a hard, challenging journey. I'm very thankful to have a team and a family that surrounds me that's been incredibly supportive, and they've been my rock, and my friends as well, of course.
What would you like for our young adults, for the registered voters? What would you like for them to know about you, and what would you like for them to do for you, to help you?
Well, I would like for them to vote for me on or before July 14th. That would be very nice. The young people, I think it's important to get involved. If there's young people that want to get involved in our campaign, we have so many amazing young people who are interning for us, who are fellows for us. We'd love to have your help. We'd love to show you the ropes of what a campaign is like. Of course, now everything is virtual, so you wouldn't have to leave your own home, but we do a lot of Skype calls and Zoom calls and things like that, so you get a lot of FaceTime. If you are registered to vote and you know somebody who is not registered to vote, please encourage them to register to vote before June 15th. That's the last day people can register to vote for this runoff. And I would just say, if you live in Plano, Frisco, McKinney, Allen, or Prosper, or far north Richardson. And if you want to see this county turn blue, I would really appreciate your vote on July 14th, because I believe I'm the best candidate to flip this district. With help from people like Saima and the AAPI community, I think that we have a really great chance of doing that. And if anybody wants any more information, please go to our website at lulufortexas.com, all spelled out. We love volunteers. If you guys are able to throw a few bucks our way, follow us on social media, Lulu for Texas. That's always the easiest way to do it. And we have a great opportunity here to flip this district. So with hopefully a strong, powerful woman.
Absolutely. And that's what it's about. Especially when it comes to our show, we want to let women know that, dream. If you dream,
go after it.
It will give you the strength to go after your dreams, because it takes courage to dream.
Well, and yeah, go after your dream. It's terrifying. I'm not going to lie about that. It's terrifying to go after your dream, because it feels like you're hanging on a limb. But I didn't want to look back 30 years from now and say, what would have happened had I tried, So hopefully it's successful the first time, and hopefully we can make change. And if not, hopefully if I've inspired young women to step up and follow their dreams.
Absolutely. And I'm sure it will all work out in the end. It's not, as they say, it's not really, and it's easier for me to say that it's not really the destination, it's the journey.
Exactly.
But the journey brings with it lots of different challenges, but it also brings joy, and then it's an adventure. So it's wonderful to see you, watch you go towards whatever it is that your goals are, your aspirations are, and that right there is very empowering.
Well, thank you.
So I'm so glad we got this opportunity